Hey, what's going on, my brothers? This is Enemy Stand User. Hope you guys are doing well. And today I want to get a bit of an overview on why Yuji Itadori works so well in the story of JJK, and also why I myself like him so much as a character. This video really isn't so much as a character breakdown as it is like a general discussion on why Yuji is just built different as a main character. I won't really cover like all aspects about him, but only my favorite qualities that he has going on for him. And this is really my own take and my own opinion, and you guys please share how you feel about Yuji. But with that being said, let's go through my own take and my own thoughts on Yuji and some points on why he works so incredibly well in the story of Jujutsu Kaisen. Now first, I want to cover the blaring trope Yuji has going on for him: Sukuna. Yuji has a literal inner demon inside of him, and I want to talk about that concept a bit. The inner power or inner demon has been explored a lot through anime and manga, a lot. And many people feel or say that it's a bad trope, it's kind of bland or weak, or it's kind of getting repetitive. But I think it's not bad at all. It's very, very cool. There's a lot that could go into said inner power or inner demon as far as lore, as far as plot and character development. In many examples in manga, the inner demon aspect does a lot of things right. There's so many options authors and storytellers can do to make the concept very interesting. Now in shonen series, it doesn't always have to apply to shonen, but mainly in shonen, in the concept of power, having this inner power or inner demon can at times make a character, especially a main character, feel very flimsy or very weak if the power is used in a way where the character needs it, they absolutely rely on it, or is kind of living in the shadow of their power. Now that is really a problem because us readers, for the most part, we want our main character to win and to thrive, to train, to get power-ups, learn how to use their power and different things, and become something great in the end. But if the whole journey was only really possible because of said inner power, then I personally feel that that character itself is kind of sullied a little bit, or it's weakened in some way. The author would need to first lay the groundwork for the character before the inner power is even a factor in the story, and they would need to show how separate they are from said inner power, or even in some cases, in some stories, prove that they are worthy for the power. It would be a real problem if the character was only ever relevant or only ever talked about because of having this said power. Again, there are a multitude of ways to keep things interesting and to keep the main character from becoming stale in some way, and Gege does a very incredible job with Yuji. With one of the best and super simple ways that he does this is off-screening Sukuna. It's a very good move on Gege's part to put Sukuna in the back burner, and for the entire series, I would say Sukuna has only been out on a handful of occasions. And if it was the case that Sukuna was to come out nearly every time Yuji was fighting, or even crazily working with Yuji and giving him demon moves and curse techniques, that honestly would be trash. Based on portrayal, if that was the case, then everything is possible because of Sukuna. However, the way Gege does it is he spotlights Yuji. He already pre-established how insanely superhuman Yuji was to begin with at the beginning of the story, and this spotlight is shown continually throughout the series that he is indeed his own person. He has his own identity. He has his own personal power. More on that later. And it's true that Sukuna does help Yuji a lot as far as his own overall cursed energy and his healing factor, but I feel that's only to further continue the story and make sure our boy Yuji isn't like dying in like the 4th episode or the chapter. But it's really clear that Yuji and Sukuna are completely different entities that don't really necessarily need each other, but still really benefit from being together in as one body. And this relationship or concept really is kind of rare to catch in JJK. Gege has not really explored too heavily Yuji and Sukuna's relationship, or even Yuji's origin on why he's so superhuman in the first place. We have really good hints right now, but nothing is super concrete with Yuji. However, Yuji still has super good looks on his own with his own power, his own personal skill set, while Sukuna is getting off screen and on the sidelines for most of the story so far. And that honestly that's kind of what we want. That's really perfect in this case for JJK. It gives Yuji so much more room to grow and time to shine, and for us to appreciate his character so much more and how it's being developed overall without being blotted out by Sukuna. So when a character is separated from that certain inner power, or that superpower, or that inner demon, Yuji is that prime example of that. And when either of them develops as characters, we don't really necessarily associate the two of them together. They are two different people, and it's crazy that I would have to say that, but that is just the case. All of this is set in place for Yuji and for the story, so that when it's time for Sukuna to be in the spotlight, we actually feel his presence in the story. I know when Shibuya hit, we felt that, Shibuya felt that, and I know Jogo especially felt that. Because Sukuna is so sidelined and backseated in the story, when he is on screen, he has our full attention. Remember back to his second awakening in Shibuya with the famous 15 fingers version everyone talks about? That situation was utter madness, the way Sukuna acted. His evil is absolutely horrible. It is horrible. He killed a lot of people when he was out, and his power was wicked insane with his feats, and that whole situation was just a mess. And it only had that much more impact because we don't really get to see Sukuna often. And what's more is we see other aspects of him besides his power, like how he respected Jogo, and we got to see how he viewed the modern era with curses and the current era of power and sorcery. We get a look into his mentality as the king of curses, and it was really cool to get more insight on just what's going on inside Sukuna's head, because we just don't get to see that, and what type of person he is, just further contrasting against Yuji. And all of these horrific events in Shibuya had directly impacted Yuji when they switched. All of the death, the carnage, the mass killings, Yuji experienced it all, and given the type of hero and character Yuji is, this traumatized him and broke his heart. Yuji actually is physically disgusted by the presence of Sukuna, and when he quote-unquote failed to keep Sukuna in check, Yuji completely lost it. He had a complete mental breakdown and was just unstable at that point. But funny enough, that part of Yuji is what I find very interesting about him, is that even in this low point, he blames himself. Even when it's obviously Sukuna's fault, he blames himself. Even well after all these events and Yuji got back on his feet as a sorcerer, he still finds fault in his own inability to save others. And he projects this viewpoint on Nanami's death, Nobara's death, Gojo being sealed, and the citizens of Shibuya's demise. Yuji is a really level-headed person and a very practical person, but he also has this insanely gullible drive to save others, to be the hero, and this determination that keeps him going and that keeps him fighting. And both Sukuna as well as Mahito realize this and use that sort of viewpoint against him. So I really think that he may in the future have another sort of mental collapse, given the type of series JJK is. Like, death and tragedy is coming for more characters in the future. Whether us readers or whether Yuji is ready for it or not, Gege will eventually hit us hard again, and we'll just have to see how Yuji reacts to tragedy again, especially if it's by Sukuna's hand, if it comes to that. And this drive Yuji has is also a really awesome part of his character, and Yuji at the same time has incredible mental fortitude in the series overall, and it just further implies his own path as a sorcerer. His own integrity is just very amazing. Like in chapter 132, when Yuji overcame Mahito and stated his own ambition to become a cog and to just keep killing curses, was unbelievable. Definitely like a peak Yuji moment for me. But again, I wanted to state how much I love the way Gege used the kind of inner demon trope for Yuji because it's so simple and it's very clear the types of characters Yuji and Sukuna are and how they kind of butt heads and fight internally in this constant struggle of morality, while at the same time being so, their relationship is so subtle and underlying that you don't even notice it. You don't even really have to think about their relationship, and when you do pick up on it, you could easily recognize it. So when Sukuna and Yuji come back into this like internal struggle, us readers were just going to immediately pick up on the overall vibe and will be amazed at the overall impact Sukuna will no doubt leave on us when he does come back into the spotlight. It's not over yet though, as I still have more points on why I like Yuji so much as the main character in the story of JJK, and this last point is kind of stupid and funny at the same time, but it's his relationship with his brother Aoi Todo, as well as the type of fighter Yuji is. Now, I don't know if you've noticed, but in JJK there's this kind of subtle crackhead energy going around where almost every character has this random burst of craziness and insanity, and Yuji is no exception. Yuji and Todo's relationship might frankly be one of my favorite aspects of JJK, and I'm not even joking. The sheer stupidity and bromance these characters share for almost no reason at all besides their taste in women was fantastic. It was unbelievable. It is so incredibly stupid and so random. Even Yuji said it was more like a spur of the moment kind of thing, but the way these two brothers support each other and fight each other was on another level. It's like they operate on the same wavelength. They are so in tune with one another, it's like a meme at this point. And also when Yuji is fighting with Todo, he was mentally unstoppable as a fighter. Todo literally turned Yuji into one of the greatest hand-to-hand combatants in the verse, and his potential is skyrocketing. You could see it both in the manga as well as the anime, but more so portrayed in the manga, where Yuji is really getting battle hungry and reaching a sort of high off of his cursed energy and battle prowess. It's a little weird to say out loud, but Yuji is definitely wired differently when it's time to fight. It's like there's this fire or burning desire for battle inside of Yuji, and next to Maki and Toji, Yuji really seems to me like one of the most full tilt characters when it comes to battle and giving it his all. Even post Shibuya, Chozo stated his battle prowess was something likened to something like a demon god, and whether you want to give Sukuna some of that credit or not, you have to respect Yuji's raw tenacity as a fighter. And when Sukuna doesn't really even give Yuji anything as far as powers go, Sukuna gives him virtually nothing. There are still circumstances like with Mahito and Yuji's healing factor where Sukuna plays a good role in keeping Yuji alive, but that's really it. Yuji is fighting his battles with his own power and his own set of skills, yet at the same time, he has been shown losing fights multiple times. One of the greatest examples with this is his battle against Chozo, and how Yuji was in really bad shape, yet he had newfound resolve and wanted to defeat his enemy and save Gojo, and at that point, Yuji was ready. He was in the zone. However, with Yuji, no matter how good he was, he got outclassed by Chozo in that situation that ended in his defeat, leading to Sukuna's massacre and that whole mess. It was so important for Yuji's character overall, and it made Yuji realize just how much of a hell being a sorcerer is, and his suffering wasn't even over yet with more deaths coming. However, when he left Shibuya, post Shibuya, overall Yuji was so much more mature on his path as a sorcerer. Going back to Yuji's relationship with Todo though, when Yuji was with Todo, he was landing Black Flash after Black Flash on special grades, seemingly doing them at will, and Todo seems to really build up Yuji as a sorcerer and helped him out a lot to encourage him and mentally mature Yuji as a shaman. It kind of reminds me of the way Kenpachi Zaraki impacted Ichigo in Bleach and how they fueled one another's thirst for battle and for combat. And Akutami even mentioned that Kenpachi was a bit of an inspiration for the character like Todo, and Todo definitely is much more of a friend to Yuji, and Toto's the guy who brought Yuji back from death and despair and taught Yuji how to become strong as a sorcerer. So their relationship is really kind of wholesome in that way, and I feel is kind of a bit underappreciated because Toto was huge for Yuji in his path as a sorcerer. And I'm not really sleeping on Nanami and his other friends and how they impacted Yuji's growth, but with Toto, their relationship is really kind of stupid, and it's very important because he's not just Yuji's friend, he's like a brother to him. And now Yuji's getting more brothers with Chozo and that whole complicated situation. So Yuji really has a lot going on for him, and he's got at least some people in his corner no matter what happened. But the reason I wanted to include that little bit about Toto and Yuji is to really drive the point on how separate Yuji is away from Sukuna as a character, and how he doesn't really even need to rely on Sukuna's power to be great. Yuji is a complete beast, an utter unit on his own, and just having any advantage that Sukuna will give him, like an inherited technique or a curse technique or whatever, will just make Yuji that much greater. I really like how Sukuna also understands what Yuji's strengths are and the type of person that he is, and looks down on Yuji always. He always wants to use Yuji and toy with him and use Yuji for his own plans. And I could be wrong about this, but has Sukuna even ever called Yuji by his own proper name instead of something like kid or brat? It's just very interesting to think about how they interact with one another, but they are just two very good characters, and seeing both of them clash on different sides with Yuji's kind-hearted nature versus Sukuna's horrific evil is pretty special, I think. And again, I love how Gege gives us just enough info about Sukuna and Yuji's relationship for us to draw our own conclusions. And it looks like Yuji just has more hell to go through as he continues his path as a sorcerer. Anyways guys, thanks for watching this video. I know I didn't really get to cover everything about Yuji and his character and his relationships in JJK, but I wanted to share how I feel about him being used as a sort of MC and how Sukuna is involved as his sort of inner demon power. But please remember to share your thoughts below and like and subscribe if you're into this type of content. My next video, I'm on the fence about it, but making like a multi-part series on Gojo, or starting to cover some other manga content such as Chainsaw Man. We'll see what I come up with, but thank y'all guys so much. Y'all brothers are awesome. This has been Enemy Stand User, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.